Compliments of the season and a very warm welcome to you on the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibe. President Muhammadu Buhari has finally submitted the 2016 budget proposal to the National Assembly. He presented the budget proposal to a joint session of the National Assembly, that's the Senate and the House of Representatives, at the same time. With the budget now in the National Assembly, we expect that lawmakers will begin work immediately after the holidays. Senate President Bukola Saraki and lawmakers make their way into the House of Representatives chambers. They join their colleagues in the House of Representatives to wait for President Muhammadu Buhari. The ministers follow suit. At exactly 10 a.m., President Buhari walks into the House of Representatives chamber. He is here to present the 2016 budget proposal to a joint sitting of the National Assembly. The chairman of the National Assembly addresses the House. He assures President Buhari that the National Assembly would give priority attention to the 2016 budget.
Mr. President, the National Assembly is conscious of the yearning of Nigerians for quick delivery of democratic dividends. The National Assembly has a critical role to play, and we recognize this role. On the budget, we are willing and ready to provide the scrutiny necessary to pass only a budget that can be implemented comprehensively.
President Buhari then takes the floor. He begins by talking about the economic challenges confronting the country.
I stand before you today promising that we will secure our country, rebuild our economy, and make the Federal Republic of Nigeria stronger than it has ever been. The answers to our problems are not beyond us. They exist on our farmlands, our corporations, in the universities, in the hearts and minds of our entrepreneurs, through the gallantry of our armed forces, and the resolute spirit of Nigerians, especially the youth, who have refused to give up despite all the obstacles confronting them. The budget proposal, the first by our government, seeks to stimulate the economy, making it more competitive by focusing on infrastructural development, delivering inclusive growth, and prioritizing the welfare of Nigerians. We believe that this budget, while helping industry, commerce, and investment to pick up, will, as a matter of urgency, address the immediate problems of youth unemployment and the terrible living conditions of the extremely poor and vulnerable Nigerians. President
Buhari then spoke about the 2016 budget assumptions.
After reviewing the trends in the global oil industry, we have set a benchmark price of 38 United States dollars per barrel. It's now around 32 already. And a production estimate of 2.2 million barrels a day for 2016. We have focused on non-oil revenues by broadening our tax base and improving the effectiveness of our revenue collecting agencies. Also, with the full implementation of the Treasury single account, we expect significant improvements in the collection and remittance of independent revenues. To further support the drive for increased remittances, we will ensure that all MDAs present their budgets in advance and remit their operating surpluses as required by Section 22 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
He further enumerated some of the key interventions which the federal government intends to implement in 2016.
As we focus on inclusive growth, we are conscious of the current rate of unemployment and underemployment. This is a challenge we are determined to meet, as this budget is a platform for putting more Nigerians to work. I can assure you that this administration will have a job creation focus in every aspect of the execution of this budget. Nigeria's job creation drive will be private sector led. We will encourage this by a reduction in tax rates for smaller businesses, as well as subsidized funding for priority sectors such as agriculture and solid minerals. As an emergency measure to address the chronic shortage of teachers in public schools across the country, we also will partner with state and local governments to recruit, train, and deploy 500,000 unemployed graduates and NCE holders. These graduate teachers will be deployed to primary schools, thereby enhancing the provision of basic education, especially in our rural areas. We also intend to partner with state and local governments to provide financial training and loans to market women, traders, and artisans through their cooperative societies.
After his speech, President Buhari laid the 2016 budget proposal before the National Assembly. The Speaker of the House of Representatives appealed to President Buhari to ensure that the budget, when passed, would be implemented.
I wish to reiterate that a well-crafted budget is not an end in itself. The real meat of a budget is in its implementation. While the National Assembly will endeavor to diligently scrutinize and pass the budget in good time to facilitate early commencement of its implementation. In this regard, and in order to aid Mr. President to execute and implement the budget, it may be necessary to take a second look at the constitutional definition of financial year.
The Senate and the House of Representatives are to begin work on the 2016 budget when they resume after the Christmas and New Year holiday. Immediately after President Buhari presented the 2016 budget proposal, some ministers and lawmakers told us what they think about the budget.
President Muhammadu Buhari laying the 2016 appropriation bill before the joint session of the National Assembly. It's a budget the president expects to revive the economy and spur sustainable and inclusive growth. Some of the ministers present at the National Assembly speak on the highlights of the 2016 budget.
What you have to expect is jobs. We are going to create jobs, and if you look at the budget, it might not be very clear to you what we've done. It's an intervention budget for job creation. There are so many programs that will run under them, but all of them will end up being for job creation, giving employment. And when we talk about employment, we will give employment that will be decent.
What excites me more about this budget is two things. The job issue for young people and the return of teacher training colleges in the local governments. That is probably the biggest change that this government has announced, and Nigerians will see the difference, because our standards started falling when we abandoned teacher training.
The Minister of Budget and National Planning says the issue of low implementation will not arise with this budget.
It will be different because we are working within budget and planning an implementation strategy, constant monitoring on a monthly basis, and when capital releases are made, we want to know exactly what it has been spent on. In addition to that, we want evidence that the funds are going to be well utilized before even releasing them. So we have a strategy.
The lawmakers are optimistic that the budget is implementable and appears to address some key concerns of Nigerians.
I believe that what is important is the political will, because we are passing a budget that is implementable, and I will tell you why. We are expecting to fund it for about 3.something trillion is been expected, and the deficit will be funded by both internal and international and foreign loans. So I believe it's implementable.
All the assumptions are realistic. Even the angle of the foreign exchange that most of us have fear for, he addressed it by saying we must work on the supply side of the foreign exchange before we can start to have more effective pricing and block wastages in the usage of our foreign exchange and reserves. So for me, I see this as a budget that will revitalize the economy, though with a high deficit, but it will revitalize the economy because it is focused on development and focused on welfare and security of Nigeria.
Very quickly, the issue of zero budgeting approach. The National Assembly has said and complained a lot, the last assemblies, about the way the budget approach we were using. Now, what's your take on this innovation by this administration?
It's really not an innovation. It's something that has always been canvassed. And we believe that it is expedient when you know that you have scarce resources, you must prioritize. Because that's the simple definition of zero budgeting. You prioritize. You know what you want to do, you do adequate pricing, you do price intelligence, then you put your money where you know will benefit the economy instantly.
Really appears that the president is determined to revive this economy, and that is critical for the National Assembly. In reviving the economy, it requires both a carrot and a stick approach. You've got to be firm in certain areas and you've got to be flexible in other areas. The president appears to have put before the parliament a budget that is sufficient to deal adequately with revival of the economy, ensuring security and safety of Nigerians, and also ensuring that we keep those critical jobs that would aid the growth of any nation. The budget appears to be going in that direction. But like they say, the devil is in the details. So we really need to look at the document in details. But from sectoral allocations, it's clear that the direction that Mr. President is going is in line with the legislative agenda set for the Parliament.
Very quickly, the issue of the budgeting system. The president spoke about the zero budgeting system. Can you please help us understand how does that affect the House?
Well, affecting the House, it's a policy by which the executive determines the priority sectors of the economy and apportions its resources to conclusively deal with those priorities. It's different from what the term we're used to, the envelope system, where you have the executive allocate portions as a routine to projects or issues regardless of the priorities of the government. So you'd have, in certain cases, a project that is near completion requiring 50 million naira, and you have another project that is just about starting that will take 1 billion naira. If you put 50 million naira to conclude that project, it's a completed project and impact can be felt by the masses. If you start another project that would require further funds without you knowing where the resources come from, you're just starting another what could be abandoned or phantom or inconclusive project. So this will work if we're all committed to it.
The National Assembly has promised to diligently scrutinize and pass the budget in good time to facilitate early commencement of the budget's implementation.